Hey everybody, welcome to Season 3 of Song Revolution. Get ready to ramp up your songwriting.
So excited to be back on the Song Revolution. Today we're hanging out with Justin Gambino. Justin, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's such a great time. I love having these conversations, and you and I just met a few months ago.
Yeah.
And so we're going to unpack your story here on the podcast
Let's
today.
go.
Talk about all things songwriting, all things artistry, touring, traveling, being a musician, catching that I wasn't only recording one side of the audio right before we started here. So you're already doing great. So yeah, we'll dive right in.
Well, I'm glad to be here, man.
Yeah, awesome. So you aren't living in Nashville currently. Where are you from? Give us like who is Justin Gambino?
I'm a Texas guy.
Okay.
I live in Texas. I live about an hour south of Houston with my wife.
Okay.
And we have a few acres down there out in the country, and maybe about half an hour from the beach. So we're pretty close to the beach.
Yeah. You don't think of beach when you think of Texas, at least I don't.
We have the Gulf Coast down there.
Okay, yeah.
And so that's been my hometown down in that area. You know, my whole life I was born and raised there.
Wow.
And so been living there my whole life, and the last few years been, doing a lot of work here in Nashville, down in Franklin, Spring Hill, all that. So it kind of feels like a second home now because I'm here. It feels like all the time.
Right.
But
man,
yeah,
love it.
It's definitely not my first home.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, man. So how long have you been in Texas? Like that's home?
Yeah, that's home. I'm born and raised.
Born and raised. Okay, cool.
Yeah, born and raised about an hour south of Houston.
Okay. Yep.
And I was born in a little town called Lake Jackson.
Okay.
And homeschooled my whole life, one of 6 kids.
Wow.
And raised in church my whole life as well.
Yep.
But yeah, nothing, it was pretty, I wouldn't say, just in case my mom watches this.
Yeah.
Because she will.
Sure.
Or if she listens to this, I wouldn't say that it was like a boring life,
Yeah.
But it really didn't start getting interesting until I hit my teenage years. Mm. That's whenever I'd like to say that I became a heathen.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard of that term.
Yeah.
I was a straight up heathen, man.
Oh, man.
But started dabbling in music at the age of 9. If you want to start getting into how music became a part.
No, I'd love to. Started playing guitar back then, or what was your
actually,
intro?
well, I mean, the pastor at the church where we went, a little Southern Baptist church, he would play the guitar and sing and lead worship, and I would show up, 5 years old, 6 years old, I'd show up with my Bible and strum on it like a guitar because I would imitate what he's doing.
Sure, yeah.
And my parents decided, oh, so cool, he looks like he's interested in music. Let's put him in piano lessons. Like, I'm strumming on my Bible and you're going to put me in piano lessons.
Yeah.
And no offense to the piano players out there. Do you play piano?
I dabble.
You dabble?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know it enough to know that I'm not good.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but 2 weeks of piano lessons at the age of 9, and I just did not want to. I didn't want to do it. I know hate's a strong word, but I hated it.
Yeah.
And I just knew that wasn't the instrument for me. But what's crazy is at the age of 9, the piano teacher pulled my parents to the side after learning that I wanted to quit. He said, listen, he doesn't see it. You may not see it, but the kid's a musician. So whenever he finds his instrument, just nurture that.
Wow.
And
you just had an ear for it.
He could just see it.
Wow.
And I had an ear for it, so I'd pick up things pretty quickly. And it was about, a few years later, my best friend that I did homeschooling with, his name's Timothy, he got his first guitar. And I was just like, oh, wow.
I want one of those.
Yeah. And so every time we would do classes together, homeschooling together, or if I was at his house, I'd be like, hey, man, can I play your guitar? Sure. So he'd show me 2 chords and a strum pattern. Now I drove him nuts with all that. And the way I kind of imagine it playing out in my head. I don't know if this is how it happened, but he probably complained to his mom that every time Justin comes over here, he's playing my guitar.
Yeah.
He should really get his own, you know?
Right.
And maybe his mom talked to my mom, and that Christmas at the age of 15, I had my first guitar.
Wow.
Which was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of how music started.
What was your intro to, like, what were you listening to at the time? Were you Christian music or just kind of whatever your parents listened to?
Man, my mom and my dad always had cassette tapes of Point of Grace, Carmen, Phil Keggy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some Randy Stonehill, some legends, bro.
Yeah.
And so I'd listening to them a lot growing up. And then whenever I discovered a local music and Christian bookstore in my hometown, I went in there, and I'm still friends with this guy to this day. But I don't know if it was his first job, but he was like selling CDs and stuff like that, working for the bookstore. And he said, well, I think you'll really, I think this might interest you. And he handed me the I Still Believe Jeremy Camp CD.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that was the name of the CD, but that was the single,
that was
the big
song.
single.
Yeah.
And so I would just take that CD home, and I would just like learn the songs, just playing, and I just listening to it by ear.
Yeah.
That's how I would learn.
Wow.
Just like sitting in my room, listening to a CD, I'd have like my little Walkman CD player or, or a little CD player on the nightstand, just play it, and just keep playing it until I could do it without messing up.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, that was kind of like my intro into the CCM world. And,
man.
And
you mentioned Christian bookstores. Like, that was such a cool, it was part of my childhood for sure, where you could go and get access to music and like take the CD off. They had like the demo CD in front of the other ones, and you take it off and put in the thing. And man, what a different time.
You put it in, you push play, they have little headphones for you. You just put them on, you could just listen to it before. It's kind of like now with digital, like you can like play a little sample, right?
Yeah, right.
But then you could listen to you could sit there for an hour, listen to the whole album,
right,
and then make your decision.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which is really cool.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And your mom's like shopping for books and Bibles and stuff. What
Probably
else
some devotionals or something like that. Focus on the family.
Exactly.
Exactly. And so I'm back there listening to some Jeremy Camp, and Mom, I want this CD.
Yeah. Man. So you were interested in songwriting back then, or was it kind of a slow, like?
It's kind of
Yeah,
it was kind of like a slow journey to get to the songwriting. Like as far as Christian music goes.
Okay.
Once I got my first guitar, the only thing I was really focused on was like, okay, like I'm gonna learn these Jeremy Camp songs, but what if I learn some songs to impress my girlfriend?
Right.
What does that look like?
Yeah.
And so of course, starting to write music for girls definitely came first, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. I feel like the guitar has that effect. You're the guy who plays guitar and playing John Mayer songs back then, and
It was John Mayer.
It's so good.
Dave Matthews.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. It's so good.
Yeah.
Man. So what were you involved in church music as well? Like at 15, getting a guitar?
Oh yeah. Leading worship for the youth praise team.
Yep.
Just kind of filling in, playing guitar and serving in that capacity.
Yep.
And that's whenever I started learning a lot of like CCM and worship stuff, and and it was, I think it's kind of interesting though. The more and more I've been sharing my story, I think it's kind of interesting how the same age that I got my first guitar is the same age where I got introduced to a completely different crowd. That was the crowd that led me down the wrong path. I wanted to fit in with this crowd. I wanted to fit in with, the coworkers at work, because I got my first job at 15 too.
Mm.
And so I notice how at the age whenever God put the guitar in my hands is the age that the enemy is paying attention.
Wow.
And he's like, let's derail this.
Mm.
And it's a couple years of that, you know, feeling tugged in different directions. I mean, by the time I'm 17, I mean, I'm just going to get deep right off the bat.
Let's go. Let's go there. Yeah.
You know, by the age of 17, 18, you know, I'm highly addicted to alcohol, smoking, party on the weekends. I mean, having sex with the girl that I was with at that time. And then that led to addiction to pornography. And so it's just like this spiraling downhill of like, I mean, within 2 years' time.
Wow.
You know, 2.5 years' time, now I'm just like a completely different person.
Man.
And, you know, it's crazy how much the enemy pays attention to what's going on in our lives.
Totally.
And how certain decisions we make, whether it's picking up a guitar or stepping on stage to lead worship, it just paints a target.
Yeah.
And at the age of 17, I was not spiritually ready for battle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a way that like my parents did not prepare me enough for that.
Right.
But it was like there was some life to live.
For sure.
And some decisions to make.
Yep.
And so by the age of 18, just 2 months after I graduated, I found myself in a courtroom because now I'm like breaking and entering and I'm committing theft. And my mom was a good teacher at like, you know, mathematics and English and all that stuff. She did not teach me how to become a good criminal. I mean, thank God I had a mother that did not
Sure.
teach me how to become a good criminal.
Right.
You know,
You got caught quick.
I got caught so quick, bro. Like I didn't know how to, you know, cover my tracks, and
Right.
I couldn't tell a lie. You know, I mean, I just felt so convicted, and so, age of 18, I'm sitting there in a courtroom, being judged for theft, and I had broken and entered and stole enough for it to be a felony.
Wow.
And so, just 18 years old, and now I'm like, oh, I'm of age to be tried as an adult.
Right.
Like this is a felony and up to 2 years in jail now. And so I remember the judge, you know, just looking at me kind of confused, like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen you before. You don't have any priors on your record,
Right.
you know? And so that was a big wake up call for me, man. You know, just a big reality check.
You feel like you felt the weight of it like at 18? Was it like, did it all just kind of hit you then? Like, I've got to get my life on track?
I kind of had the desire to end my life. You know, I never really had suicidal thoughts like that, or just the thought to just like run away and not come back. Hopefully it'll all, you know, they'll forget about me. But
Sure. Wow.
that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
I had to face the, just some consequences, you know.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Man. So what kind of next steps there? I mean, what ended up happening? Were you?
So
Yeah.
the judge, this always gets me so emotional, man. The judge asked me, kind of like you're doing now, asked me about myself, and he was like, tell me about yourself. And so he's asking me, you know, how many siblings I have. He's asking me, you know, does both my parents work? Are your parents in the picture? And so I'm answering these questions, and he's like, I see a good kid in front of me that just made a bad choice. And I'm going to give you a choice to make. And I'm hoping you make the right one, because, you know, you have the opportunity to turn your life around right now. And he said, you can take the felony today. You can take the felony and go to jail. You might get out in 6 months, good behavior. But it could be up to 2 years if you don't act right. And I guarantee you, you know, you probably won't be the last time you see me if you take that route.
Yeah.
You just won't be the same person.
Wow.
He said, or if you promise me that you'll show up for community service for the next 18 weeks, and you promise me that you'll sign up for the military, some branch of military, get your life back on the straight path. I'll put a misdemeanor on your record. You won't have a felony on your record for the rest of your life.
Wow.
You won't be a convicted felon.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that sounds good. So right at the age of 18, man, I joined the Navy and signed up for 8 years. And, I mean, you think like that's a long time to sign up for, you know?
Yeah.
And I signed up as a U.S. Navy Seabee. Have you heard of the Seabees?
I haven't.
Okay, so the Seabees, they're a construction battalion. So wherever the SEALs and the Marines were, like, we would be there to support them. And so, yeah, now, you know, just a couple years into my enlistment, you know, where the SEALs and the Marines go? This is during Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah. Wow.
This is, you know, just a few years after 9/11. And I don't know why why I thought that I could sign up for the military for 8 years and hope to skate by and not go overseas.
Right. It's such a crazy time.
Yeah, but just a few years into my enlistment, I find myself in the sandbox, middle of Iraq, and I'm fighting for the very freedom that I took for granted. And I'm not there because I volunteered.
Wow.
I'm there because of the choices I made.
Yeah. Man. Insane.
Probably the furthest from God I've ever been in my life.
Oof. Can't imagine. Man.
It's kind of heavy, ain't it? You know,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, yeah.
The more I share this story, the more, I mean, just the weight of it just hits me.
And how much time did you spend overseas? Like, how long were you deployed?
The deployment was for 6 months.
Okay.
It was a total of close to 10 months because, you know, they take 2 to 3 months to mobilize you. So there's a mobilization process. And then there's a demobilization process to where, like, after you complete your time overseas, you know, they bring you back stateside and you can't go home right away. They're like, listen, you're a different person now than before you left. And there's going to be things that happen now stateside that's going to make you mad. It's going to set you off. There's going to be things that people say or do.
Yeah.
And you're going to respond differently now because you have a different outlook on life and the appreciation you have for, like, the freedom that we have here. And so there's like even though it was a 6-month deployment, it's like a 9 to 10 month process of, like, mobilizing, deployment, demobilizing.
Wow.
And, but it was about halfway through my deployment in Iraq, I'm feeling like, man, the furthest from God. Like, I haven't prayed in a while. I am just really far from Him.
Yeah.
And feeling really lost and really alone. I remember spending my 21st birthday over there, which, you know, as one that enjoys drinking alcohol, who wants to spend their 21st birthday in Iraq?
Right.
On my 21st birthday, my grandfather passed away while I was over there, and him and I were close.
Oh man.
And so I just remember just feeling just really alone.
Yeah.
And really mad at myself for the choices that I made.
Mm.
And, you know, my dreams and desires of doing music is like, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Out of sight.
Non-existent. Yeah.
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 It's not in the cards anymore.
Right. Right.
So I said.
Yeah.
But God said something totally different.
Totally. Man.
On a Wednesday night, I get this desire to go to chapel. I haven't been to church in a long time.
This is after you're back stateside.
This is in country. I am in Iraq, and we have Wednesday night chapel.
Oh,
and I know about the chapel.
Sure.
We're about 3 months into the deployment. My grandfather had passed away. I had just turned 21. And I just get this, just this tug, man, on my spirit to go to the chapel. And I've been raised in church my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what it's like to go to church. I know the importance of it.
Yeah.
But I'm far from God. And I go to chapel. And my first night there, there's maybe 12 of us in the congregation. And the chaplain asks the question, does anybody here know how to play guitar?
Wow.
Does anybody here know how to lead worship?
Whoa.
We need someone to lead worship.
Yeah, what did that do in your heart? Like,
well, I was really like, I'm not raising my hand.
You're like, I'm not. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that God brought me all this way.
Wow.
To put the guitar back in my hands. What?
Yeah.
And so I'm in my mind, I'm thinking I'm not raising my hand. But the next thing I know, the guy's looking at me because I'm raising my hand. And so I go to the call center where we can make phone calls and get on the internet and check emails and stuff like that, which is all monitored, by the way. Like, you're overseas during, Operation Iraqi Freedom. That's, a lot of stuff is classified. And like, if you say anything over a phone call, that's going to trigger a red flag,
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful what you say. But me, I just wanted to call him and see if my dad would send me my guitar. And bro, I'm getting emotional right now just thinking about this.
Yeah.
Because here is this prodigal son that calls home to dad. It's like, Dad, can you send me my guitar? There's this opportunity for me to lead worship. I mean, could you imagine the feelings of the father, of my father?
Yeah.
Hearing the voice of his prodigal son that he knew was far from home. Not just physically, but spiritually.
Man.
And so my dad sends me my guitar, packages it up in this big box of styrofoam peanuts. Took me like an hour to get that sucker out of there, dude.
They're going everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And yeah, man, there I was leading worship in Iraq. And yeah, God put the guitar back in my hands, and that was 2007.
Wow. And that was every Wednesday night, like at the chapel
every
thing?
Wednesday night.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Probably the crazy thing was, just kind of how that judge looked at me and he said, what are you doing here? And once all my buddies started seeing me lead worship and playing the guitar and singing, they're like, what are you doing here?
Wow.
Like, you're not supposed to be here.
Wow.
This is not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man. So you finished out your deployment, came back with that still in your heart, like still burning music, leading worship, or what was that?
Yeah, I would say that the music was burning hot then. But, even though we had like the demobilization process, what I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah.
And they would say like, hey, there's going to be things that people do, things that people say that's going to make you angry. And I'm like, oh, I just want to get home. And they were right. I mean, I had such an appreciation for the freedom that I had now. And the things that I took for granted, I don't take for granted anymore. And so I come back home thinking I can have like a fresh start. And now I come home with this PTSD and this anger issues like nothing else, bro. Like anger so bad that like I'm fantasizing about murdering people if they make me mad.
Wow.
And and I, then I spiral right back down into alcohol, addiction to pornography, just, I'm not married yet at this time. So like any girl that I can be with, I'm with,
Yeah.
And it's just, now I'm right back where I was before. And I think back again, like the Lord put the guitar back in my hands and the enemy's like, let's get him again, But I think what's really cool is that around this time, a mentor and a friend of mine invited me to a Bible study on a Friday night. And he said, hey man, almost like that same invitation that chaplain had in Iraq, like get your guitar, help me come lead worship.
Wow.
And so at that Bible study, that Friday night Bible study is whenever I started writing music that honored God. And just started just growing deeper and deeper in my faith.
Wow.
And that was about 2009 to 2011.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
To kind of give you the timeline.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Man, I love the through line of like you said, God putting the guitar back in your hands. It's almost this like, just this symbol or nod that he's got a plan for you. Right?
Yeah.
And now.
For sure.
I mean, yeah, wow. So, okay, so you started writing at that point. Did you ever think like, I'm going to be a songwriter, I'm going to be an artist? Like, did you even know what that meant at the time, or was that still just kind of a distant?
I think I did.
Going back to the Jeremy camp, you're like, I want to be him sort of thing.
I think the band that was really big in that time was like 10th Avenue North.
Yeah.
They had just come on the scene and they had some hits coming in and I remember like I was starting a band with a drummer friend of mine that I met in college. This is like 2010.
Okay.
And we had like kind of played around in a friend's studio a couple of times, and we were thinking of band names. And I remember like whenever 10th Avenue North came on the scene, we were thinking of a band name called True North.
Oh, wow.
And then we're like, oh, we can't do that. They already got the word North in there.
Yeah.
We can't do that. And so anyways, we started writing music and doing some small church gigs, even like bookstores. Like there was still a bookstore in town, so we'd like perform acoustically at a bookstore.
Yeah.
A little coffee shop in town, we'd go perform at a coffee shop. And through this little endeavor of doing music. So now like I still haven't ended my enlistment with the Navy. Like I'm in my reserve time.
Oh, okay.
Up until 2013. So like,
okay,
this is my reserve time in the Navy now, to where like I just have to go report for like a weekend out of the month.
Gotcha.
Just to, make my exit with an honorable discharge.
Gotcha.
And so I had a couple more years left, and 2013 is whenever I got out of the Navy.
Okay.
And now it's like, okay, now I can focus a little bit more on music.
Yeah.
I still have a full-time job, but I can focus on music a little bit more. In 2013, I was also whenever I got married to my wife, Ashley.
Okay.
And I learned this after we got married, but she was like, my whole life, I always knew that I wanted to be married to a musician.
Whoa.
I was like, really? Are you serious? I never knew that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Wow.
But yeah, we got married in 2013.
I just had a flashback to you playing John Mayer songs early on, thinking about girls. And she's like, "That's the guy. That's the guy I want.
I want a guy like John Mayer."
Yeah, that's great.
Sorry, babe. I'm not like John Mayer.
Hey, you never know. That's great. Wow.
But yeah, a couple years of still working a full-time job. First 2 years of marriage, working a full-time job, and traveling on the weekend, sometimes in the summertime if I can get like a week off of vacation and go do some gigs throughout Texas. But 2015 is whenever I quit my job with the support of Ashley and a lot of friends and family and the few fans in my audience at that time. That's when I released my first single.
Okay.
2015, November of 2015.
Okay.
And I just started going all in, bro.
Wow.
Then, I remember thinking to myself, like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be all in 110%. There's nothing, I don't want to give any less than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was 2015 was whenever I started doing music full time. So It's been coming up on 10 years.
Insane.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
What would it feel like to have 52 weeks of access to the right people in Nashville? People who've been making music for decades. People who can answer every question that you have about what pro-level music making is all about. Well, you can get that and more by joining NCS Community. Our community is a group of worldwide dedicated Christian songwriters who want what you want, to glorify God with your gifts and to get your music out there. I hope that you'll consider joining NCS Community today.
Thank you for sharing your story. That's so, thanks for going there and going deep quick.
Yeah.
'Cause I think, a lot of people listening, a lot of people around NCS, they want to write songs. They want to, they see a lot of success or things that happen on social media and whatever.
Yeah.
But they don't see the story. They don't see like the lead up to, somebody like you doing music full time, you're touring the country, you're writing songs, putting out albums, but it's like, it's all of the groundwork and the foundation, right? That set you up to be able, and obviously hard work and just going for it in 2015. But maybe talk a little bit about that. Like what was the, when you decided to go all in, what did that mean for you at the time? Like obviously probably a struggle and a tough thing to just go all into, but
it was a lot of fear involved, a lot of uncertainty, Now I'm going from a consistent paycheck to not a consistent
maybe a paycheck.
Maybe a paycheck. And at first, and I didn't realize this until about 5 years in doing it full time, but at first, I was just trying to make a name for Justin. I was trying to climb the, people use the term, the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was trying to climb that CCM ladder.
Yeah.
And trying to write the next best song and trying to get on radio and I would say that for a good 5 years, I became very, very complacent. I sometimes will say the words that I fell into a pit of complacency where I was just checking boxes and going through the motions just to, say that, like, I truly believe that, like, I'm actually going to release a song about this on my third record. We got it done, the song that is. But I got this song that I wrote about, like, I've spent my life, this is part of the chorus, I've spent my life building up a kingdom I thought it was yours. For a long time I thought that I was doing this to bring glory to your name. But at the end of the day, after each event or, youth camp or whatever it is, I'm back on my phone looking to see how many YouTube subscribers I have compared to the day before, or how many more, kids follow me on Instagram, or how many more Facebook likes, how many likes did that last post get? And I was just consumed by being accepted and being in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that all changed for me in 2020, bro. But, you know, going all in 2015, you know, I mean, if anybody's listening to this and thinking about going all in, it can be a dangerous place to be if you're not spiritually prepared for it.
Wow.
If you're not taking time to be with your Heavenly Father. If you're not, I mean, I'm convicted now. Like if I start my day on my emails or on social media, I'm like, oh man, Lord, forgive me. I got to get in the Word first.
Yeah.
Before I get into this Facebook or before I get into this Instagram. And so I was convicted of kind of doing things the wrong way. Not kind of, just doing things the wrong way.
Yeah.
Trying to make a name for myself. Because I really thought that just taking credit for myself a little bit was going to be okay.
Sure.
And not giving God all the credit.
Sure.
And whenever everything shut down in 2020, bro, that's when I realized that I did not know how to Psalm 46:10. I did not know how to be still. I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah,
I could talk about it from the stage all day long. I could tell you how to be still.
Yeah.
But when it came down to it, I was flipping out like everybody else was.
Yeah.
You know, not saying that everybody was flipping out.
Yeah.
But, you know, I felt like I was stripped of my calling.
Wow.
I felt like, okay, what's the point of me writing these songs if I can't get on the road and share them? Like as an entertainer, as a musician, songwriter, I need a gathering of people.
Yeah. Need to be in the room with people.
What they're shutting us down on, you know? And I felt super discouraged and super alone through as COVID started. And there was this voice that I would listen to. And it was very different from that still small voice that the Bible talks about. But it was this voice that said, what's the point of you writing these songs? You can't even get on the road. You can't even share them with people. Put that thing away.
Right.
And I listened to that voice for months. And yeah, man, it was like September 2020. I was leading worship at this church in California because thankfully there was a few churches that said, hey, we're not going to cancel. We can host church outside. We can do this. We can get it done. So if you can get here.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm in Texas and all these people that are saying like, hey, if you can get here, it's like Idaho, Nevada, California,
right,
Montana,
right,
Utah. And I'm like so far away.
Yeah. Days on the road.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And, I remember, you know, being pretty close to one of those fires in California that was started by someone, right? You know, it was someone rioting, someone protesting that started a fire. It wasn't like a natural wildfire, forest fire. And I remember leading worship outside this church and like literally ash was falling on my microphone. And I'm thinking, Lord, I know that you have a plan in all this, but I have no idea what it is. I don't know why you have me here thousands of miles from home. Kind of like how I was in Iraq.
Wow.
Thousands of miles from home. And what the Lord told me was, and this is before I came to the realization that I was just going through the motions. I was in this pit of complacency that I was telling you about. And one thing that the Lord told me was, Justin, what breaks my heart doesn't break yours yet. And him telling me that did not break my heart. And I knew that there was something wrong here. I was so consumed with myself. And I was so calloused that the Holy Spirit, what he was telling me, it was just like, okay.
Wow.
And I knew that there was something wrong. And at this moment, the next 2 weeks of events on that tour had canceled. And this is what I said to the Lord. And bro, this was a dangerous prayer. But I said, all right, Lord, well, I got the next 2 weeks. I'm a couple thousand miles from home. I got nowhere else to be than right here in your presence. So I'm going to wait as long as it takes until I feel the full effect of your broken heart.
Wow.
And that was the day that I wrote the title track off my last record. The first song that I'd written through COVID.
Wow.
Was the title track off the record. Through tears, bro.
Jeez. Wow. Just you by yourself. No co-writer.
I was just sitting in someone's backyard in Northern California. A great family that supports me, that hosts me every time I'm coming through there. They're like, hey, next 2 weeks of events canceled. This is your home away from home.
Wow.
You stay as long as you need.
Wow.
And so in a way, I could see God's provision through the uncertainty and the fear. But still, like, experiencing God's goodness and his provision was still like, I was still kind of calloused by it.
Wow.
Or not calloused by it, but calloused to it.
To it, yeah.
Because I'm so consumed with trying to climb that ladder. I've gotten to this routine of just going through the motions.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like it almost took that shut down, or even those shows canceling to force you into that place.
A place of stillness.
Still.
Yeah. A place of stillness. Yeah.
Wow. Man. I feel like there's so many crazy full circle moments in your journey.
Oh, we haven't even gotten to the big full circle moment, bro.
Oh man. Well, let's go.
You want to go there now?
Let's go there. Yeah.
So it was about a month after I wrote that song.
Yeah.
And I find myself in Salt Lake City. I led worship at this church, and after doing that, I'm on my way home, and I'm sitting in my van, and the Lord says, Justin, it's time to go home. And I want you to lead worship and do a night of revival for your hometown. And I'm thinking, okay. I feel like I hear your voice now. Like, you met me in that backyard and I wrote this song. Like, I feel like we're connecting a little deeper now. And said, all right, let's do it. Where do you want me to do this revival, God? He said, I want you to do it at the courthouse. I was like, what?
Wait, what?
You can forget that.
Yeah.
No. I told God no. I was like, I'm not going back to the place where I have bad memories.
Wow.
I'm not going back to the place where, all my hopes and dreams were just destroyed by my decisions that I made. Like, I'm not going back to that. Not going to do it. You're either going to have to find a different venue or a different servant because it ain't me. Well, I lost that argument, to say the least, bro, because he wouldn't let me shake that idea. Wow. I remember calling my pastor, and I was like, I think God wants me to do it at the courthouse. He's like, do what? It was like one of those do whats that the H was before the W.
Yeah, yeah.
Do what?
Yeah, he's like, where? Like, where are you going to do it? Yeah.
And I thought that there was going to be a lot of opposition, because it was COVID.
Yeah.
And what, you want to do a revival where people are going to gather?
Right. Right.
Every official in that county said yes.
Wow.
The county judge said yes. The mayor said yes. The city manager said yes.
Jeez.
And I got to reconnect with the same judge that judged me just 16 years before.
No way.
Oh, way.
That's insane.
It is insane.
Man.
And so here I am. Now, this is on December 12th, 2020. I'm standing on stage. We can't keep track of how many people have come to this, and we only announced it a month in advance. It was like October 8th, God told me to do the revival. December 12th. Okay, so maybe it was 2 months. December 12th is when we did it.
Wow.
So I had 2 months to pull off this event.
Jeez.
And the Lord provided every penny. And here I am standing on stage, and I'm selfishly thinking, all right, the Lord has brought me here to bring revival to my hometown.
Yeah.
And the Lord says, no, Justin, I brought you here for us. And this is where my story gets me choked up every time. He said, I brought you here because I know 16 years ago you walked up to these steps feeling hopeless and at the end of your rope. But I brought you here to tell you that the same plan that I had for you then, 16 years ago, is the same plan that I have for you now. The only difference is that I have your undivided attention.
Wow.
That's the only difference. Wow. You're not wiser. You may be a little older. You don't have better songs than you had. The only difference is that I have your undivided attention.
Wow.
That's the only difference, son.
Wow.
And that's whenever I know that this prodigal son turned back towards the Father's house. That was the day that it was like, I've come back to my senses. I've come to my senses.
Wow.
And I can see the Father's house in the distance. Not only can I see the Father's house, but I see him running to me.
Wow.
With his robe and the ring and the sandals. And that's whenever I started writing the rest of the record, the Made New record. Because I was like, I know that the Lord wants me to write songs about this.
Wow.
Because now I have lived this 16-year full circle where there's been plenty. We've talked about them, bro. There's been plenty of valleys. There's been some mountaintop experiences. But,
wow.
It's pretty crazy, man.
It's insane.
So in just 3 weeks' time, I mean, this podcast will be released after we hold the 5th annual revival. But as of today, we're just 3 weeks away from the 5th annual Brazoria County revival, because we have done this every single year since then.
Oh my word.
Because God just keeps on providing.
Wow.
We've seen people come to Christ at these events, bro.
Man. 5 years.
5 years.
Wow. It's incredible, man. Seriously incredible.
Only God, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just don't want to do anything else other than point to him and what he's done for me and how he's never given up on me.
Yeah. Wow.
He's always been there. Even whenever I thought he wasn't. Always been there.
Amazing. I have this picture of him just putting the guitar back in your hand, like over and over.
How many times?
Yeah. Yeah.
He put my guitar in my hands, and maybe my first guitar was that Bible at 5 years old, 6 years old, strumming it.
Yeah, wow.
And then 15 years old, he put it in my hands.
Wow.
And then, in Iraq, he put it in my hands. Came back from Iraq, I spiraled downhill at that Bible study, he put it in my hands. Then through COVID, he put it back in my hands.
Amazing.
And then it's like, he's too good of a dad, man. He loves his kids. And I am living proof of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, what a testimony. I mean, we talk about all kinds of things on this podcast, songwriting, we get really practical in a lot of things a lot of times. And I love the fact that you just shared your whole story as a testimony to God's faithfulness.
Oh yeah,
through every, that's what it's all about. Because we don't, again, going back to we don't see the journey a lot of times of a lot of people that we look up to, or we think, oh, I want to do what that person's doing, or I want to write songs like that person. I want to play concerts like that person.
It's kind of like that iceberg thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You only see
people see the tip of the iceberg.
Totally.
But what God has done in my life and the things that I've done to kind of derail myself along the way is everything that, you don't see beneath the surface of that iceberg.
Man.
So, yeah. I mean, Yeah, I know that you guys talk about songwriting and stuff like that, but like,
Yeah.
man, sometimes I feel like the most powerful tool is our story and what God has
100%.
done in our lives. And I think, at least from my experience over the last year and a half, because it's only been about a year and a half to 2 years that I've been sharing this story. Like about a year and a half ago, you would have gone to my website and it would have said, and then Justin, left the Navy, or, left high school and joined the Navy. And then he left the Navy to pursue a career in music. It would say that kind of stuff.
Right. Bullet points kind of the.
Just skimmed the surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now that it gets all down to the nitty gritty stuff, it's my testimony. Like my biography on my website is like pretty much my testimony.
Wow.
And I think it should be that, man. I think letting the story, tell the story, and then letting the music just be what it is.
Totally.
Because people can hear my story through the music too. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about the record, Made New. I
Yeah,
mean, like,
man.
You've obviously been playing that out and touring and playing shows and stuff.
Yeah, we released it a little over a year ago.
Okay.
And led to, I knew that I wanted to write a record about my testimony. And the cover of it is like, we actually took the picture down in Spring Hill, found this
cool.
like this little wheat field or whatever, and
Yeah.
I was wearing a robe and I was
Yeah.
wearing a ring and sandals.
It's an incredible
and just
picture.
like, you've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love that photo, man.
Yeah.
Not because it's a photo of me, but because of it's a representation of what God's done in my life. And so, yeah, I just embarked on this journey of like writing songs to tell my story. And whenever God told me that it was going to be an album for the prodigals, I knew right off the bat that I needed to scratch about half the track list because they didn't fit that prodigal theme.
Gotcha.
So then I went back to the writing room and started writing new material. And there's songs on there like Mercy and Revive, There's No Love Like the Love of Jesus, Worth Fighting For. These are songs that I wrote after the Lord said, this album needs to be for the prodigals, from a prodigal to the prodigals. And that was a journey, bro.
Wow.
That was a journey.
Yeah.
And but it was a very life-giving journey because it has allowed me the opportunity to share my story with so many people. I mean, the opportunities that I had, the doors that opened after releasing that album and really getting authentic with my audience and my story. Man, people were they wanted to know more of it. And the more they asked me to share it, the more I remembered.
Wow.
It was almost like every time I would step on stage, whether it be at a concert, because like for a year straight on tour, I would make sure that I had 20 to 30 minutes on stage where I'm not doing music and I just share my testimony. So it'd be like 30 minutes of music, 30 minutes of testimony, end it with a couple songs, almost like a church service,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the more and more I shared my story, the more it felt like the Lord was grabbing me by the hand and walking me through this garden. And he was like, okay, I'm going to point out things that need to be pruned. I'm going to point out things that need to be uprooted. I'm going to point out things that need to be watered and tended to. I'm like, Lord, are you going to do this in front of all these people? Like,
Yeah.
you want me to share that in front of all these people?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so it's been a growing process for me too, you know?
Yeah. For sure.
Because I can honestly say, bro, that even though I was raised in church my whole life, and I was baptized at a young age. 7 years old, I was baptized. But December 12th, 2020 was a revival for Justin. That's whenever I came alive, dude.
Man. Amazing.
And the songwriting, the tours, it just hasn't been the same since. In a good way.
Wow.
Sometimes in a challenging way.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
that comes with, you know, painting another target on your back for the enemy, you know? But
Yeah.
man, what what a privilege to be in the crosshairs of the enemy because I'm a threat to him.
Totally.
My story, it brings people to know Lord. What a privilege to be in the crosshairs of my enemy.
Wow.
It means I'm a threat.
Yep.
And yeah.
I'm reminded of that, just the scripture, like we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Dude.
Like that's literally, you're living proof of that. And
yeah,
I can't wait to see just what else comes in the next, 16 years or 15 years, whatever.
I know, dude.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The records I'll write.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the stories I'll tell, or the stories that, that God is gonna, my story's not over.
Totally.
I'm now starting
right?
I'm now starting to write my book, bro.
Whoa,
tell my story through a book.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what kind of opportunities that's gonna bring up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask, like, what's next? Like, what's 2025 look like? What's the future of kind of where you're headed?
Working on a third record.
Okay.
We're about halfway through.
Okay.
With working on the third record. I've been writing an original worship project. Might be 5 songs, something like that, 6 songs. So like an EP.
Yep.
Been writing worship, and then the book.
Amazing.
I don't know when I really want to tell the whole story, in the book. So I don't want to leave anything out. I don't want to just scratch the surface.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I doubt that it'll be released next year.
Sure.
But it could be a 2-year, kind of goal to have, to get that book out.
Yeah.
And so it's just really important for me to write my book and
totally
write that story that God's written through me. So yeah, man, third record. Got a few singles from the third record that's gonna start getting pushed out at the beginning of the year.
Okay, great.
And I'm excited for this third record, man.
I can't wait to hear them.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Well, how can people follow along? How can they find you? How can they connect?
Yeah, JustinGambino.com.
Okay.
And then all the things, all the socials,
things. Just Justin Gambino.
Justin Gambino. Okay. I think my Instagram's music at the end of that, Justin Gambino Music.
Yep.
But if you just search Justin Gambino, it'll come up. And yeah, Facebook, if anybody's still doing the FB thing. Not on MySpace. I haven't been on my Twitter in forever. I know I have a Twitter, but I can't remember the last time I signed in.
Is it called X now? Is that the thing?
Oh, that's right, X.
I don't know.
Forgive me.
I still call it Twitter.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what to call it.
I haven't logged in forever, dude.
Yeah.
Usually when I do my MailChimp, when people sign up for my email newsletters, I just we're just going to link this to X.
Yeah.
So whenever I send out my newsletters, it pops up on my...
Right.
I was about to say Twitter.
Yeah.
But it pops up on my X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but yeah, all the things. Anywhere you listen, stream music, got music videos on YouTube, then go subscribe and...
Love it.
But my hope and prayer is that, my story just brings people closer to the foot of the cross, man. Mm-hmm. That if he can bring me out of what I was in, man, you're never too far gone. Never too far gone.
So good.
Don't give up.
So good. Justin, thanks, man. This has been rich and
thanks for having me, bro.
Deep and awesome.
I hope. Yeah.
I know. I mean, your story has and is and will do exactly what you said. Bring people to Jesus. And so thank you for sharing. Thank you for being faithful to share it and, driving for hours and miles across states and sharing your music and doing the thing.
Yeah.
So we'll stay connected and let us know how we can help you down the road.
Thank you so much for having me, bro.
Yeah, man. Justin Gambino.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. If you got some value, please help us share the love. Leave a like and a share and a good review. Be sure to check out everything that we have to offer you at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. We'll see you next time.